Now look, we as racing fans complain every week, oh, this NASCAR race was boring, IndyCar ending under yellow, F1, it's always chalk, Mercedes Verstappen, podium, but that's not the case today, and this is why we love racing. This is the Rich Report, bringing you the richest content across entertainment. We're talking about F1 this morning. Yes, it is only 9:05 a.m. and while we may be seen as wimps, we are college students and we're not accustomed to waking up this early, but we've done it all season long for Formula One. My name is Cameron Richardson. Welcome back to the channel, and thanks if you're listening on Spotify or Apple. Sean Clark is joining me. Sean has been by my side through almost every single F1 race, and he's an instant fan. He started watching this year, and he's fallen in love, and he's found some favorite drivers. He's a McLaren guy. So, Sean, how are you doing after a wild Italian Grand Prix, and how are you doing on this lovely Sunday morning?
What an introduction. Yeah, this is my first year watching Formula One, and I have to say, this is the best race, NASCAR or Formula One, I have ever seen. This race was perfection when it comes to motorsports. As a McLaren fan, I'm very happy with the P2 and P4, so that is fantastic. I just feel so satisfied. This is why I love F1, just stuff like this. Oh, one of the big three didn't win a race. It's beautiful. Let's get into this.
Yes, it was a wild race, wild results. Pierre Gasly comes through for his first career win in Formula One. And this is after he got removed from Red Bull, went back down to AlphaTauri while Alexander Albon took his job. Albon still without a podium with Red Bull, while Pierre Gasly has a win with AlphaTauri. Carlos Sainz getting second, his second career podium, and Lance Stroll rounding out the podium. All three men getting their second career podiums overall. But Pierre Gasly, had it not been for Kevin Magnussen's the driver of the day for bringing out the first safety car. Pierre Gasly, obviously, right before, which set him up to take the lead, pitted before the first safety car came out, which, you know, he couldn't pit. He didn't come down. He didn't have to come down pit road after that. Absolute chaos early on. Lando Norris jumping from 6th to 3rd. He was in a position to get podium, ended up finishing 4th. But we got to talk about Valtteri Bottas. That should be the main storyline. Him and Albon, no race pace whatsoever. When they're back in traffic and don't have clean air, it is an absolute nightmare. And why Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, they're the top two, obviously. And now you start to question whether or not Bottas and Albon should be removed from their rides in top equipment and can't even get a solid result. Bottas, there shouldn't have been any reason why he shouldn't have won this race after the Hamilton penalty. I mean, we saw Hamilton go from last and get points in 7th, and he was gaining on Bottas. He was half a minute behind the field and only finished about 10 seconds behind. He finished he was 10 seconds back of Valtteri Bottas. So, Sean, what is it with these two gentlemen? Why can't they seem to find any pace in a Red Bull and a Mercedes? What is the problem with Bottas and Albon?
The problem with Bottas is obviously I'm brand new, I will admit, but I still question myself when doing research. Why was it that Bottas was chosen to be the other Mercedes driver? I don't understand why. He's not a risky driver. He folds under adversity. Every time that Bottas has faced adversity, he's folded under it. The only reason he won the first race because everyone else wrecked, or Lewis Hamilton got a 5-second penalty, which shouldn't have happened. But Bottas, he's like the trust fund kid. That's all Bottas seems to me so far. He seems to be, he's a decent driver, but I would say other drivers, like especially Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, I think they're all better drivers than Valtteri Bottas. So it doesn't make sense to me why Bottas got Mercedes. And if I'm Mercedes, definitely be looking for a replacement, because there is no excuse for Bottas not having a podium every race. He should win more than just one race. I know Lewis Hamilton's great and all, but I'm sorry. This was almost handed to you on a silver platter. You start the race terribly, and then you follow that up with not being able to catch McLaren drivers right in front of you, and you can't pass Lando Norris? Lando Norris is great, trust me. But you can't pass a McLaren driver in 10 laps? You can't pass him? Really? And as far as Albon, this one is much more obvious. The guy literally does not know how to race side by side. It seems like every time he goes side by side with somebody, he collides with them. He doesn't know how to win battles side by side. Again, why was he chosen for Red Bull? Yes, Gasly did struggle for Red Bull last year, but there are much better drivers out there that know how to win side by side battles. I mean, look at the second race of the season. Lando Norris went from P8 to P5 on the final lap. What does that tell you? He knows how to win side-by-side racing. He knows how to make passes. I've almost never seen Albon make a great pass on a car with a similar pace. It's simple as that. These two crack under adversity, and they don't know how to win the tough battles, unlike drivers from McLaren and Renault, which it's weird for me to say that, but that's just the facts.
Yes, and while Albon did finish in front of Verstappen because Verstappen would go out with a potential engine failure, Red Bull brought him down and they found a potential engine issue, and so they didn't want the engine to just fail during the race, so they ended up pulling him and said he was done for the day. Albon still only 15th, finished behind both Williams. Williams' family obviously leaving F1 after this race. The team name will still be under Williams, but there will be no Williams family members doing any sort of work with the team from here on out. Oh, Ferrari. Oh, my goodness, Ferrari. Hey, you know what? At least Italy got the victory. AlphaTauri is an Italian team, so, hey, they would have gone crazy for Pierre Gasly, but oh, Ferrari. What an absolute nightmare. Lap 8, Sebastian Vettel, already starting from 18th, was terrible in all three practices and has a brake failure going into the chicane in corners 1 and 2, blows up one of the foam barriers, and that would be the day for Vettel. But at least he got put out of his misery early instead of running just P15 or lower all race long. And then Charles Leclerc, oh, wow. I'm glad he's okay. That was a hard hit. Leclerc wasn't terrible throughout the race. He showed signs that maybe he could get points at the bare minimum. But then after his pit stop, he would snap loose in Parabolica. And that would be at a very, very hard hit. Would bring out the red flag, which would then lead to Hamilton and Giovinazzi getting stop-and-go penalties because pit road was closed. Well, I think that might have been because of the Magnussen caution. It was because of the Magnussen caution. Pit road was closed. Hamilton and Giovinazzi came down while it was closed. They served 10-second penalties. Hamilton going all the way to last, but would then work his way back to 7th. It was an insane race. There wasn't 1 minute wasted. There was no filler. It was every single lap, all 53 laps, something of note happened, and which is why, it doesn't happen all the time in F1. These races are usually outliers, but we're glad we get them. Outside of Austria, I mean, it's all been pretty chalk up until this point, with Mercedes dominating, Verstappen somewhere within there. But man, I can't wrap my head around just how wild this race was. And it bodes well for the future in F1 because these were young drivers getting solid finishes today. So when Hamilton's up, when Bottas probably won't be in Mercedes after 2021 if he cannot improve upon this year and can't get any better this year and doesn't show any signs of competing for wins next year, he's going to be out of a ride. Somebody's going to be taking that position. But it's good to see young guys like Gasly, Sainz, Norris, all running well. It bodes well for the not just for them finding success, but for parity and multiple drivers potentially competing for wins within the next years instead of two teams.
Yeah, it was great to see not only McLaren had a great qualifying. Sainz qualified third, which is phenomenal. And how about Lando Norris with a great start? He jumped 3 places on the start. So so that just shows driving excellency. And you mentioned Pierre Gasly. Let's talk about him. Obviously, he picked up his first win. Phenomenal for Pierre Gasly, considering how much he's been through. This is his second podium in the last year because he finished P3 at Brazil last year, which you know who finished directly above him? Carlos Sainz. It seems like Gasly and Sainz are connected whenever they somehow get in the top, which is very interesting. Of all the drivers to pair with each other, is Sainz.
Sainz finished third. Sainz career high finishes third. Gasly got P2.
My bad. But Gasly winning this race, it shows not only that Gasly has improved and he is finding a rhythm with AlphaTauri, but let's be real here. AlphaTauri lately has been much better than Ferrari. Can't believe we're saying that in 2020, but here we are. Because remember, Gasly won driver of the race last week at Spa, where he vaulted himself from 12th to 8th, which great run for him to get points. And Gasly held off Sainz. Yes, he did get the lead with 28 laps in, but he had to hold off Sainz. Sainz was gradually closing on him, but in the final lap, he held him off. Yes, Gasly got very lucky by going into the pits first before the yellow car, so that allowed him to get the lead. But holding off Sainz is something he still had to do, and he did a fantastic job of that. All credit goes to him. Yes, it is highly possible if there was one more lap, Sainz would have caught him. Highly possible, because he did have the DRS on the final lap. But all credit to Gasly for winning this race. He vaulted himself from 12th to 7th in the driver standings, which well done, Pierre Gasly.
Eighth.
It's just great to see.
8th, sir. He is still behind Charles Leclerc. And it doesn't seem like it. Doesn't seem like it, but Gasly is still behind Leclerc in points. 2 points back. But in terms of the driver points, Ricciardo did fall to 10th because of the great days from Gasly and Sainz, which is pretty interesting. Stroll now 4th, tied with Lando Norris, and it's still what could have been a big day for Valtteri. He couldn't capitalize and still sits 47 points back of Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship. But here's the thing, in the constructor points, Renault now in front of Ferrari by 10 points. So I mean, I don't know what the answers are for Ferrari. I don't know if it's race pace, it's bad luck. Anything negative that could happen to a team in racing, it's happening to Ferrari. It's not like they don't have talent. Vettel's a legend. Charles Leclerc is great. They just I don't know if it's the engineers, whether it's a train wreck at Ferrari, and I don't see where the answers will come from, where any signs of positivity will come from in the near future for them.
It really is bizarre that Charles Leclerc has 2 podiums this season. It certainly doesn't feel like that.
Austria felt like 3 years ago.
Yeah, he finished P2 in the first race of the season. Also, he finished P3 at Silverstone, the first of the 2 races there. After Valtteri Bottas had a flat tire. I mean, so did Lewis Hamilton. But Ferrari is 6th in constructor points. He has 61 points. They're 10 points behind Renault. 10 points. Oh, wait, sorry. Alpine, which is what they'll be called next year. And they're only 14 points ahead of AlphaTauri. What? They're only 14 points ahead of AlphaTauri, which blows my mind. When you think of cars, you think of Ferrari. We talked about this on the show last week. It just boggles my mind how far they have fallen. I thought Leclerc would at least get points. No, they didn't even finish the race.
No, not a single Ferrari. No Ferrari finish. And now Ferrari gets their 1000th anniversary Grand Prix at Tuscany next Sunday. The first race for F1 at Mugello Circuit should be an interesting one. I don't know the course at all. Look, I haven't watched F1 much. I know F1. I've been following F1 for a while, but I wouldn't say I'm a guy that watches every single race to race. I have this year, but we're still getting back into the swing of things. It's hard. It's hard being from the West Coast of the U.S. and waking up at 6 a.m. every day. And now there's going to be races coming up to start at 5, 4. And then when we go to the Middle East and Asia, the races start at 12 and 1 a.m. here. It's a grind here, but we're getting through it. We're getting towards the middle to late parts of the season. It's gonna be a fun ride to the end, and we're gonna make sure we have it all covered for y'all. Sean and I write the previews and recaps every single race weekend. We're gonna do these F1 podcasts now every post race. So if we have to do one at 3 a.m., we're gonna end up doing one at 3 a.m. So make sure y'all are following along. What a fun race! Let's hope next weekend at Tuscany is just as great. That will do it for this first F1 recap, the Italian Grand Prix. For Sean Clark, I'm Cameron Richardson. We will see you for 3 new podcasts for the general show this week, followed with next Sunday's F1 recap. Have a great rest of your weekend, and have a great rest of your day.